I thought my stepdaughter hated me. Every meal I made she refused to eat. Every smile I gave she avoided. But one night, when her father was gone, she looked at me with trembling hands and whispered, "Daddy put something in the food." And in that moment, I realized I hadn't married a grieving widower. I had married a killer. If you're into real chilling stories where the truth hits harder than fiction, make sure you subscribe. Because some stories aren't just about revenge, they're about survival. Seattle in autumn feels like a dream you don't want to wake up from. Cool air brushing your cheeks. Leaves falling like quiet confessions. The kind of peace that tricks you into believing life is finally gentle. That's what I believed. I was wrong. My name is Rachel Harrison, and 3 months after I got married, I started to feel like I had made the worst mistake of my life. I wasn't supposed to have a family. At least that's what the doctor told me years ago. I still remember sitting in that cold office, staring at the edge of his desk while he spoke in that careful, clinical tone. "Rachel, it's going to be difficult for you to conceive." Difficult. Such a soft word for something that shattered me completely. I went home that night, sat on my kitchen floor, and cried until I couldn't breathe. After that, I stopped dreaming. No husband. No children. No future that looked like the one I used to imagine. Just work. Routine. Silence. Until I met Michael. He walked into my life like something out of a story I didn't think I deserved anymore. Calm voice. Gentle smile. The kind of man who made you feel safe just by standing near you. We met during a hospital-related meeting. He worked in pharmaceutical sales. I was just a medical clerk, buried in paperwork and predictable days. But he noticed me. And when he talked about his life, there was this quiet sadness behind his words. "My wife passed away last year." He told me one evening over coffee. There was no drama in his voice. No performance. Just emptiness. "And your daughter?" I asked carefully. His expression softened. "Emma, she's 5. She's everything." Something inside me shifted right then. A man who loved his child that deeply. A little girl who had already lost her mother. And me. Someone who had nowhere to put all the love I never got to give. Felt like fate. Or maybe, I just wanted it to be. We got married faster than we should have. I see that now. At the time it felt like healing. Like 2 broken pieces trying to become whole. The wedding was small. Quiet. Just family. And Emma. She looked like an angel. Little white dress. Tiny hands holding a bouquet almost too big for her. When she walked down the aisle, I remember thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe this is my second chance. When she called me Mama, for the first time, I nearly cried. But love isn't always what it looks like at the beginning. The first crack appeared at breakfast. "Good morning, Emma," I said, cheerful, trying to sound natural. She didn't look at me. Just a tiny, barely audible, "Good morning." I smiled anyway. I made pancakes that day. Fluffy. Golden. The kind you see in commercials. She didn't touch them. Not even a bite. Just sipped her orange juice slowly like she was buying time. "Emma," Michael said from behind his newspaper. His voice suddenly sharp. "Eat." Her shoulders flinched. Actually flinched. "It's okay," I quickly added, forcing a soft tone. "You don't have to if you're not hungry." She shook her head and slid off the chair. "I'm done." And just like that she left. I remember standing there, staring at the untouched plate. A weird heaviness settling in my chest. "She's just adjusting," Michael said, not even looking up. "She was used to different cooking." Different cooking. It sounded harmless. But something about the way he said it. Cold. Dismissive. Like the conversation was already over. So I tried harder. God, I tried everything. Cookbooks. Online recipes. Kids' meals. Healthy meals. Fun meals. Smiley face pancakes. Homemade pizza. Pasta shaped like animals. Every day I poured myself into it. Every day. She barely ate. Daycare, they told me the same thing. "She's not eating much." Home. Same pattern. Same quiet refusal. Same words. "I'm not hungry, Mama." But here's the thing that started to bother me. It wasn't just the food. It was her eyes. There was fear in them. Real fear. Not picky child behavior. Not stubbornness. Fear. One evening I picked her up from daycare. She was laughing. running around with other kids. Happy. Alive. But the second she saw me, her smile disappeared, like someone flipped a switch. Her body stiffened. Her eyes dropped. And she walked toward me like she was bracing herself. That moment stayed with me. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything. The untouched food. The trembling hands. The way she only seemed relaxed when Michael wasn't around. But every time I tried to bring it up, Michael shut it down. You're overthinking. She's just sensitive. Stop making it into something it's not. And maybe I wanted to believe him, because the alternative didn't make sense, didn't fit the man I thought I married. Until the night he yelled. Emma refused dinner again. Just sat there staring at the plate. Silent. Still. I said eat, Michael snapped. Louder this time. She flinched so hard her fork clattered onto the plate. I'm sorry, she whispered. That broke something in me. Michael, stop, I said, my voice shaking. She's just a child. He turned to me, and for a split second, I saw something in his eyes. Something cold. Something I had never seen before. That night, I cried in the kitchen after they went to bed, sitting on the floor. Just like years ago. Same feeling. Different reason. I didn't know it yet, but I was already in danger. And the little girl I thought rejected me was the only one trying to save me. It wasn't until Michael left for a business trip that Emma finally told me the truth. And what she said changed everything. The morning Michael left for his business trip, something felt different. I didn't notice it right away. It wasn't loud. It wasn't obvious. It was quiet. Too quiet. Usually, mornings in our house carried this invisible tension, like walking through a room filled with glass you couldn't see, but could feel under your skin. But that day, it was gone. I stood in the kitchen making breakfast out of habit more than hope. Simple sandwiches. Nothing fancy. I didn't expect anything to change. I didn't expect her to change. Emma called softly. She walked in slowly, but not the same way she usually did. Her shoulders weren't tight. Her hands weren't shaking. And for the first time since I met her, she looked at me. Actually looked at me. I want to go to the park today, she said quietly. I blinked. It was such a small sentence, but it hit me like something massive, because it was the first time she had asked for anything. Of course, I said quickly, almost too quickly. Yeah, we can go. And for a second, just a second, she smiled. That smile stayed with me the entire drive. It felt like I was finally seeing the real her. Not the quiet, withdrawn version, but a child. Just a child. The park was painted in autumn colors. Golden leaves scattered across the ground. Kids laughing in the distance. The air smelled crisp, clean. Normal. Emma ran ahead of me. Not far. Just enough to feel free. She climbed the small slide, sat at the top and looked back at me, like she was checking if it was okay to be happy. I nodded. Go ahead. And she slid down, laughing. That sound. I hadn't heard it before. Not like that. Not fully. And something inside my chest tightened, because I realized she had been holding herself back this entire time. We sat on a bench later, sharing the sandwiches I made. I handed one to her, trying not to make a big deal out of it, trying not to watch too closely. But I couldn't help it. She took a bite, a real bite, and chewed. Slowly, carefully, like she was testing something. Then she looked at me and said, I like Mama's sandwiches. I almost cried right there. I had spent weeks blaming myself, thinking I was failing her, thinking she didn't accept me. And all it took was one moment without him. But that's when the confusion came back. Because if she could eat now, why not before? That question followed me home. It sat in the back of my mind like a whisper I couldn't ignore. Dinner came. And just like that, everything went back to how it was. Emma sat at the table, silent, still, her hands resting in her lap, not touching the food. Emma, I said gently, you liked the sandwiches earlier, right? She didn't answer. Didn't even look at me. I made something similar. I'm not hungry. Same words. Same tone. But this time, I noticed something I hadn't before. Her eyes. They weren't just distant. They were watching. watching the door. And that's when it hit me. A thought so sharp it made my stomach drop. She's not afraid of the food. She's afraid of something else. That night I couldn't shake it. I kept replaying the park. Her smile. Her appetite. Her freedom. And then I replayed dinner. The silence. The fear. The way her eyes kept drifting. To the hallway. To his absence. Or maybe, to the memory of him. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My thoughts spiraling. My chest tight. My instincts screaming that something was wrong. But what? What could possibly explain this? Around midnight, I heard footsteps. Soft. Careful. Almost hesitant. I sat up. My heart already racing. Rachel? Her voice. Small. Shaking. I rushed out of bed and found her standing in the hallway, clutching her pajama sleeve. Emma? What's wrong? She looked behind her. Toward the dark hallway. Toward her father's empty room. Then she stepped closer to me. So close I could feel her trembling. I can only talk when Daddy isn't here. My blood went cold. What do you mean? I whispered. She grabbed my hand. Tight. Too tight for a child. The previous mama. Her voice cracked. She stopped eating too. My heart skipped. What? I said, barely breathing. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Daddy got angry when she didn't eat. Her grip tightened. And then he started putting white powder in her food. The world tilted. White powder. I repeated, my voice hollow. He said it was medicine. She shook her head violently. But she didn't get better. My chest felt like it was collapsing in on itself. She got sleepy, Emma continued. Really sleepy. Every day. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. And then, her voice broke completely. She didn't wake up. Silence filled the room. Heavy. Suffocating. No, I whispered. No, Emma, that's not. I saw him, she said. Her voice sharper now. More desperate. I saw him put it in the food. Tears streamed down her face. I didn't want you to die too. That sentence. It shattered everything. You what? I said, my voice trembling. I didn't eat, she sobbed. So Daddy wouldn't put it in your food. My knees felt weak. I was protecting you. The room felt like it was closing in. All the pieces. Every strange moment. Every uneasy feeling. Every cold look from Michael. It all snapped into place. This wasn't a grieving husband. This wasn't a broken family. This was something else. Something darker. Something I had been living with. Sleeping next to. Trusting. Emma, I whispered, pulling her into my arms. Her body was shaking violently. You're safe, I said, even though I didn't know if it was true. You're safe. But inside, I felt terror like I had never known before. Because if what she was saying was real, then I wasn't just in a bad marriage. I was living with a man who had already killed once. And I was next. As Emma clung to me, crying, I realized something terrifying. If I did nothing, I wouldn't survive long enough to protect her. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. Emma eventually did. Curled up beside me, her tiny fingers still wrapped in my shirt like she was afraid I might disappear if she let go. But me? I just lay there, staring into the darkness, listening to every sound in the house like it might be my last. Every creak, every whisper of wind, every shifting shadow. Because once your mind accepts something like that, once you know the person you trusted might be capable of murder, you can't unsee it. And the worst part? Everything suddenly made sense. Michael's anger, his control, his refusal to talk about his first wife, the way Emma reacted to food, the way she watched him, feared him. This wasn't imagination. This wasn't trauma-twisting memories. This was a pattern. And if Emma was right, I wasn't just in danger. I was already part of his plan. Around 3 a.m., I quietly slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Emma. My legs felt weak as I walked toward the kitchen. Every step heavy, every breath shallow. I stood there for a long time, just staring at the counter, at the place where I had cooked every meal, every plate I had served, every bite I had watched her refuse. Then my eyes slowly moved, to the spice rack, to the cabinets, to the drawers, and a thought hit me so suddenly it made my stomach twist. What if he already started? My hands began to shake. I rushed to the sink, turned on the light, and just stood there gripping the edge of the counter, trying to breathe. No, think, I whispered to myself. Don't panic. I needed to be smart, not emotional, because if this was real, then I wasn't dealing with a normal situation. I was dealing with someone who had already done this before. Someone careful, patient, calculated. I forced myself to think like him. If I were him, what would I do? I wouldn't rush. I wouldn't leave obvious evidence. I'd make it look natural, gradual, like illness, like exhaustion, like something no one would question. And suddenly, I remembered something that made my blood run cold. A week ago, I had felt unusually tired. Not just tired, heavy, like my body didn't belong to me. I had brushed it off, blamed stress, blamed lack of sleep. But now it felt like something else. Something deliberate. My stomach twisted. Had it already begun? I staggered back slightly, gripping the counter harder. No, I can't stay here, I whispered. But leaving wasn't simple. Guys, Emma was still here. And if I ran, if I disappeared suddenly, what would happen to her when Michael came back? The thought alone made my chest tighten. I couldn't leave her. I wouldn't. So that left only one option. I had to end this. But not recklessly. Not emotionally. I had to be precise. I went back to the bedroom, sat beside Emma, watched her sleep. She looked so peaceful, so small, so undeserving of everything she had already been through. You protected me, I whispered, my voice barely audible. Now it's my turn. And that's when I made the decision. I reached for my phone. My hands were still shaking. But my voice? When I spoke, it was steady. I need to report something, I said. There was a pause on the other end. Then, what's your emergency? I took a breath and stepped into the truth. I think my husband murdered his first wife. Silence. Then everything moved fast. Too fast. Within 40 minutes, they were at my door. 2 detectives. One older man with calm, steady eyes. The kind of presence that made you feel like he had seen everything. And nothing surprised him anymore. The other, a younger woman. Gentle, careful, but sharp. Very sharp. We're here to help, she said softly. I nodded, but my hands were still trembling. Emma clung to me as I explained everything. Every detail. Every moment. Every word she had told me. I expected doubt, skepticism, but I didn't get that. I got silence. Heavy, focused. The kind of silence that meant they were taking this seriously. The female detective knelt in front of Emma. Her voice soft, careful. Hey, sweetheart. Can you tell me what you saw? Emma looked at me, her eyes searching. I nodded. It's okay, I whispered. You're safe. And slowly, she spoke. About the powder, the tiny bags, the drawer in his study, about how her mother got weaker, sleepier, about the fear, the yelling, about everything. By the time she finished, the room felt colder. The older detective stood up, pulled out his radio. We need a warrant, he said. Possible homicide. Those words hit like thunder. Homicide. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was real. They moved quickly after that. Too quickly for my mind to keep up. They told me to pack essentials. To be ready to leave. To stay somewhere safe. A hotel. Just until we confirm everything, they said. But I already knew. I didn't need confirmation. I had lived it. Felt it. Seen it in Emma's eyes. Still, the waiting was unbearable. Hours passed like days. Emma stayed close to me the entire time, holding my hand, refusing to let go. Are we safe? She asked at one point. I hesitated, just for a second. Then I nodded. Yes, because even if I wasn't sure, she needed to believe it. Around 10 a.m. the next morning, there was a knock on the hotel door. My heart jumped. I opened it, and there they were, the detectives. But this time, their faces told me everything before they even spoke. We found it, the older one said. My chest tightened. Found what? I whispered. Drugs, the younger detective replied. Large quantities. My stomach dropped. Sleeping pills. Tranquilizers. Way beyond legal limits. The room felt like it was spinning. And that's not all, she added. She handed me something. A notebook. Worn. Faded. A diary, she said. His first wife's. My hand shook as I opened it. And as I read, my world shattered again. Because she knew. She had known. As I read her final words, a chilling realization hit me. I wasn't just uncovering a crime. I was stepping into a story that was meant to end with me. I couldn't stop staring at the diary. My hands were shaking so badly the pages trembled like they were alive. The handwriting was delicate, careful, almost hopeful. First, I've been feeling so tired lately, one entry read. I don't know why. Michael says it's just stress. My throat tightened. Another page. He insists on cooking for me more often now. It's sweet but strange. I feel sleepy after I eat. I can barely keep my eyes open. I stopped breathing. Another. I tried to stay awake today. I really did. But my body wouldn't listen. Emma kept watching me. Like she knows something's wrong. Tears blurred my vision. And then, the last entry. If something happens to me, please protect Emma. I dropped the diary. A cold, hollow feeling spread through my chest. She knew. She had known exactly what was happening to her. And she couldn't stop it. But Emma had seen everything. And she had carried that fear. Alone. Until me. She saved you, Detective Rodriguez said softly. I nodded. But inside, something else was building. Not just fear. Not just relief. Something darker. Something sharper. Anger. Because this man, this monster, had planned everything. The drugs. The control. The lies. Even the insurance policies. Michael increased her life insurance before she died, Detective Johnson said. And he took out a new one on you right after your marriage. My stomach twisted violently. I wasn't just a wife. I was a target. A replacement. A second attempt. And if Emma hadn't spoken that night, I would have ended up just like Jennifer. Another quiet death. Another illness. Another lie. No, I whispered. Both detectives looked at me. He doesn't get away with this. And for the first time since everything began, I didn't feel helpless. Felt focused. Because this wasn't just survival anymore. This was justice. And I was going to see it through. That evening, my phone rang. Michael. The name alone made my chest tighten. I looked at the detectives. They nodded. Answer it, Johnson said quietly. Act normal. Normal. I took a breath. Then answered. Hello. His voice came through calm as ever. Controlled. Cold. How is Emma? He asked. Not how are you? Not I miss you. Just Emma. She's the same, I said carefully. Still not eating much. A pause. Fix it, he said. 2 words. Flat. Sharp. Like she was a problem. Not a child. I'll be back tomorrow night. My grip tightened on the phone. Okay, I replied softly. The call ended. And the room felt heavier than before. He has no idea, Rodriguez said. I nodded. Good. Because that meant this would end exactly how it needed to. The next day, everything moved fast. Faster than I expected. The detectives coordinated with airport security. Set everything in place. All I had to do was wait and protect Emma. We stayed in the hotel room most of the day, watching cartoons, talking softly, trying to hold on to something that felt normal. At one point she looked up at me and asked, "Are they going to catch Daddy?" The question hit hard, because despite everything, he was still her father. Yes, I said gently. She nodded, but her eyes filled with something complicated. Fear, relief, sadness. A child trying to understand something no child ever should. That night, we got the call. They've got him. 3 words. But they felt like the end of a storm. He was arrested at the airport, Johnson continued. He didn't resist. Of course he didn't. Men like him don't panic. They calculate. They adapt. But not this time. This time, he was finished. The news broke within hours. Pharmaceutical sales manager arrested for wife's murder. I watched it on the hotel TV. Emma beside me, her small hand gripping mine. That's Daddy, she whispered. I pulled her closer. You're safe now, I said. And for the first time, I believed it. Balance scale the trial. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, strangers, people drawn to the horror of it all. But for me, it wasn't a story. It was my life. Emma sat beside me, her feet barely touching the floor. Her hands folded tightly in her lap. When they called her to the stand, my heart nearly stopped. She looked so small up there, so fragile. But when she spoke, there was strength in her voice. I saw Daddy put white powder in Mama's food. Silence filled the room. He said it was medicine, but she got sleepy. And then she didn't wake up. Some people cried. Others looked away. But Emma kept going. Because she wasn't just telling a story. She was telling the truth. And the truth was enough. The defense tried. Of course they did. They said she was confused. Too young. Misremembering. But they didn't have the diary. The drugs. The insurance records. We did. And piece by piece, the lie fell apart. Until there was nothing left. Balance scale the verdict. The courtroom held its breath. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder. The words echoed. Emma exhaled beside me. A shaky, fragile breath. And I wrapped my arm around her. It's over, I whispered. But what I didn't say was, we won. Not just the case. Everything. Red Heart, the aftermath. The months that followed were quieter, softer, but not easy. Healing never is. I fought for custody, for the right to keep Emma with me, because she wasn't just my stepdaughter anymore. She was my family, and she chose me too. I want to stay with Rachel, Mama, she told the court. Over and over again. 6 months later, it became official. She was my daughter. Legally. Completely. Forever. Hamburger, the moment that changed everything. One evening, we stood in the kitchen together. What do you want to eat? I asked. She thought for a moment, then said, I want the hamburgers my old mama made. Before Daddy came. My chest tightened, but I smiled. Okay, I said. Let's make them together. It wasn't perfect. The patties were uneven. The vegetables were chopped too big. We laughed more than we cooked. But when she took that first bite, her eyes lit up. It's delicious, she said. And then, the words I had been waiting for. Rachel, Mama's food is the best. I turned away for a second, because I didn't want her to see me cry. Crescent moon final moment. That night, I tucked her into bed. She looked up at me half asleep. Thank you for protecting me, she murmured. I brushed her hair back gently. You protected me first, I whispered. And as I turned off the light, I realized something. This wasn't just a story about revenge. It wasn't about anger or punishment. It was about truth and the quiet, powerful courage of a little girl who refused to let history repeat itself. Some people think revenge is loud, explosive, dramatic. But sometimes, real revenge is quieter. It's exposing the truth. It's surviving what was meant to destroy you. It's taking back a life someone tried to steal. Michael wanted control. Silence. Another victim. Instead, he got justice, exposure, and a lifetime behind bars. And Emma? She got something far more important. A future. If this story gave you chills, or reminded you how powerful the truth can be, make sure you like and subscribe. Because sometimes, the scariest stories are the real ones. And sometimes, the smallest voices are the ones that save lives.